Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. This is Radio Free Mormon on the air, broadcasting behind enemy lines. Tonight's episode: Jenn Kamp files criminal charges against John Dehlin. Yes, I can't stop laughing even as I'm saying this. This case just gets crazier and crazier. Or maybe what it is we're getting more and more of a view into the wiles and machinations of Jenn Kamp. This is Radio Free Mormon, episode 357. Yes, once again, that title is Jenn Kamp Files Criminal Charges Against John Dehlin. So let's check out what's going on here now in Utah. Here is a summons that was issued on July 22nd, 2024. You can see that there in the upper left-hand corner. Today's date that I'm recording this is July 26, 2024. So this is very recent and late breaking news. It is a summons. Let me go over here to the screen where I can see the summons and I can scroll it down. Here it is. The state of Utah in the 3rd District Court, Salt Lake Department, in and for the county of Salt Lake, state of Utah, the state of Utah plaintiff versus John Parkinson Dehlin. And then I have redacted his date of birth as well as his home address, just like I did for Jenn Kamp. I want to be fair about that and not be too invasive in the privacy of individuals, even though this is a public record and is readily available through the public record website at the Utah 3rd District Court. The summons here, it is case number 2419088586. Yes, it's actually got a number. John Dehlin is the defendant. The state of Utah to John Parkinson Dehlin. You are hereby summoned to appear before a magistrate of the 3rd District Court, Salt Lake Department, at the time and place shown below. Date, August 27th, 2024. Well, that's good. That's a month away, so at least he'll have a chance to stop laughing before he's supposed to show up. By the way, he's never going to be going to court on this. This is going to get dismissed before John even has to show up in court, and we'll go into that here in a second. Time, 8:30 in the morning, in person, 3rd District Court, Salt Lake Department, Matheson Courthouse, S31, 450 South State Street, that great street in Salt Lake City, Utah, and there's the zip code. To answer to a charge made against you upon the information of Jeff Smith, Unified Police Department, agency case number, blah, 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 for 1 count of stalking. John Dehlin is being charged with stalking. Can you guess who the victim is alleged to be? Violation of civil stalking injunction, a Class A misdemeanor in violation of Utah Code annotated 1953 as amended, etc., etc. So there is the entirety of the summons that was served on John Dehlin here in the last couple of days. Well, fortunately, we also have what is titled the information, which is the charging document. And there's a little bit more information in the information. Other jurisdictions might call it an indictment. It is the formal charging document. Here in Washington, where I practice, the information is what is called the charging document for felony cases. But for misdemeanor cases, it's not called information. Different states do things differently. Apparently here in Utah, they will call misdemeanor charging documents informations as well. But it's not so important what they're called, but what's in them. And what's in them is what is going to be so fascinating here. So here we have the information itself on the screen. You can see in the upper left-hand corner, it says Sim Gill, bar number 6389, District Attorney for Salt Lake County. I expect that is the boss of the office. And Rory Stokes, bar number 17036, the Deputy District Attorney who reviewed this case and who actually is going to probably be getting some good-natured ribbing and maybe a little extra training in how to review cases for filing, because Rory did an absolutely crappy job on this one. I picture a guy just fresh out of high school, and he's just made a rookie error on this. But then he was helped with his rookie error by the rookie error that the police made as well. Let's look at this information. Once again, this is the state of Utah versus John Dehlin. It was screened by Rory Stokes. It was assigned to be assigned. A different attorney is going to handle it in court. But Rory Stokes is the one who made the mistake here because he screened this and filed it. And then it's going to be handed off to another attorney to dismiss it, frankly, or to handle it in court. So it's titled an information, summons to be issued. We just saw the summons, warrant release, not book. So this is not something where someone's going to be arrested and thrown in jail and brought before the judge in handcuffs. Okay. The undersigned detective, Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith's going to get some friendly ribbing too, and perhaps a little re-education on how to do his job. The undersigned detective, Jeff Smith, Unified Police Department, agency case number 2415643, upon a written declaration, states on information and belief that the defendant, John Parkinson Dehlin, committed the crime of, count one, stalking, violation of civil stalking injunction. Now, wait a second. This isn't stalking independently, like he went out and stalked somebody. This is stalking as in the charge is he violated a civil stalking injunction. So this is a violation of a stalking injunction order. That's what this is. That's what this is alleged to be. And now we're starting to get a few ideas as to what this might be. Let's go on, shall we? A Class A misdemeanor as follows, that on or about November 21st, 2023. Well, that was just last November, wasn't it? Yes, today is July 26, 2024. November 21st, 2023 was just last November. At Salt Lake County, the defendant did intentionally or knowingly engage in a course of conduct directed at a specific person. I wonder who that specific person could be. And knew or should have known that the course of conduct would cause a reasonable person. And then they have a colon, and now it says violates. So they start with what would typically be the normal stalking statute language. And then it's like in the middle of doing that, they break in and put in the language that shows it's actually the violation of a stalking order that's being alleged. It says it violates a stalking injunction issued under Title 78B, blah, 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 or a permanent criminal stalking injunction issued under Title 78B. So what this is either a violation of a civil stalking injunction or a permanent criminal stalking injunction. Those are both orders of the court obtained in different ways through different venues, but they're both stalking injunctions, i.e., don't stalk this person. The allegation is that John Dehlin did in violation of the stalking order. Therefore, he's getting this charge now. Let's remember this date of November 21st, 2023, shall we? Going on to page 2. This information is based on evidence. Evidence obtained from the following witnesses. Jeff Smith. Oh, remember that was the police officer who's going to get some more training. And Jennifer Kamp. There we go. There's a familiar name. Declaration of probable cause. Okay, so this is how we know that John Dehlin did what it is he's accused of doing back in November 21st of 2023. I'm sorry. I'll try and keep a straight face. It's hard to get through this, believe me. Declaration of probable cause. Your declarant, that's Jeff Smith, bases the information upon the following. The statement of Officer Hudgens of the Unified Police Department. There's another officer who's going to get some training in the near future. That on or about February 20th, 2024, that's this year, 2024, but it's last February, they responded to a telephonic report, phone call, of a civil stalking injunction violation that occurred in Salt Lake County. So they got a call from Jennifer Kamp on February 20th of 2024 saying that she was stalked the prior November, 3 months earlier on November 21st, 2023. That's what appears to be happening here. Jennifer Kamp stated that she has a civil stalking injunction against the defendant, John Parkinson Dehlin. Jen, are you going to be honest with these police officers, or are you going to pull the wool over their eyes and make them think that you actually had a civil stalking injunction against John Dehlin on November 21st, 2023, when you know that's not true? Let's go on. Jennifer stated that on or about November 21st, 2023, she received a phone call from Dehlin. Jennifer answered the call and hung up after recognizing Dehlin's voice on the other end of the phone. Wow. So that is the allegation. And if memory serves, this isn't the first time she's brought this up. I recall her bringing this up in other hearings, probably in the civil case down there in Utah earlier this year. I'm sure she's brought it up before. So this is Jennifer's side of the story. I think the other side of the story is that John Dehlin accidentally called Jennifer on his cell phone because his attorney is also a Jennifer. His attorney's name is Jenn Kamp. That's John Dehlin's attorney. So I guess they were right together. He hit the wrong one. It rang. She picked it up. He hung up immediately. This is what this is about. Okay. And that's why Jennifer says Jennifer answered the call and hung up after recognizing Dehlin's voice on the other end of the phone. It has nothing to do with what was said. Nothing objectionable was said. It's just the allegation that John Dehlin called her. On February 17th, 2023, the defendant was served with a temporary civil stalking injunction issued in the 3rd District Court under court case number 2309011037, listing John Dehlin as the respondent and Jennifer as the petitioner. The stalking injunction prohibits Dehlin from directly or indirectly communicating with Jennifer. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. Jennifer, did you really do this, Jeff? And then Jeff Smith signs it under penalty of perjury, as he has to, executed the 22nd day of July, 2024, and authorized for presentment and filing by Rory Stokes. Okay, so there's a number of people who are going to be going through the same training in the near future. The last page here just shows that John Dehlin has no other criminal cases pending. No, he's got a pretty clean record as far as criminal stuff goes, and it's going to continue to be clean as soon as this case gets dismissed. All right, so what am I talking about here? Let's go to this last paragraph. On February 17th, 2023, the defendant, John Dehlin, was served with a temporary civil stalking injunction issued in the 3rd District Court, blah, blah, blah. Yes, of course he was. We all know that's true because we know, as well as Jen knows, that she went to court on February 14th, 2023, Valentine's Day. She got an ex parte anti-stalking injunction against John Dehlin. It was temporary in nature. John Dehlin wasn't notified it happened. He didn't get a chance to present a defense. She walked in, made her case to the judge, told her side of the story to the judge. The judge issued it, which is judges do regularly here, there, and everywhere. They give these out like popcorn. And so she gets a temporary restraining order. John Dehlin then goes to court, fights it, puts her to the test of actually proving in court by evidence that she was stalked by John Dehlin. She fails miserably. She has an attorney, by the way. She is represented. John's represented. She's represented. And she fails completely. And the judge, Coral Sanchez was her name, dismisses her petition to have a permanent restraining order. It's gone. It's done as of that date. And that was in March of 2023. So let's bring that up here on the screen if we can. And here it is. This is the order that was entered by Judge Coral Sanchez. And let's see if we can find out what date it was entered. Let's go to the very bottom here. Yes, it was March 7th, 2023. So what it says at the bottom is, because petitioner, that's Jenn Kamp, did not meet her burden of demonstrating that stalking of the petitioner, i.e. Jenn Kamp, by respondent, i.e. John Dehlin, has occurred. She did not meet her burden of demonstrating that stalking by John Dehlin of her had occurred. The temporary civil stalking injunction issued on February 14th, 2023 is hereby revoked. That means it doesn't exist anymore. That means after this date, which was March 7th, 2023, there is no longer any anti-stalking injunction in place, which means that after the date of March 7th, 2023, John Dehlin cannot violate an order that no longer exists. He can't do it on March 8th, 2023. He can't violate it on March 9th, 2023. And he sure as hell can't violate it on November 21st of 2023. And yet that is what he is being charged with. And why? Because when Jenn Kamp picked up the phone in February of this year and called the police and reported John Dehlin for violating the order, she told the police only about the temporary order that was issued on February 14th of 2023. She didn't tell them that that order had been dismissed by the judge after a full evidentiary hearing and present the second order to the police. So that's bad on you, Jen. Okay, that's you being deceptive. That's you lying by omission to the police in order to try and get John in more hot water. That much is on you. But now it comes to the police, because the police should go and look at the court documents. They should get a copy of the temporary injunction. But more than that, it says temporary right on it. You would look for something that happened after the temporary order was entered, because just maybe there was a hearing, and maybe that was a full evidentiary hearing. And maybe after the full evidentiary hearing, the temporary order got dismissed. You might want to know that before you go filing criminal charges against a person for violating an order that no longer existed at the time it is alleged that he violated it. So that's on the police officers, both of them apparently. Then there is Rory, the prosecutor. And I'm picturing a pimply-faced kid just out of law school reviewing this and not asking those same obvious questions that I just mentioned that the police didn't answer. All they did was go along with what Jenn Kamp wanted them to go along with. And by the way, we might want to look at this as an example of how convincing Jenn Kamp can be to people who don't know her at all. Jenn can get people to believe her when she's not telling the truth, just as well as when she is telling the truth, because she really knows how to sell it, doesn't she? Well, this is why both those police officers and the prosecutor are going to have to go through a little training, because why on earth did you not check out the court file? You actually have the case number in your information. They have the case number of this case in front of Coral Sanchez. They have computers. They have systems. They can just plug in the case and look it up on their computer screen while they're sitting in their air-conditioned office in the prosecutor's office. They don't even have to walk over to the court to look at the file itself. They can just pull it up on their screen. Nobody did that. The first police officer didn't do it. The second police officer didn't do it. The prosecutor didn't do it. And now they filed a charge against John Dehlin, which has absolutely no basis whatsoever. So let's go back to the top of this order by Judge Coral Sanchez. And you can see there just at the beginning where she says, pending before the court is Jennifer Ruth Kamp's ex parte, civil temporary stalking injunction against John Dehlin. Ex parte, once again, remember, means that she went into court by herself. There's only one party there. There's no other party, just herself to get the temporary order. The judge heard only her side of events, only her version of the story. And she got this temporary stalking injunction against John Dehlin. The dates are here in this opening paragraph, which is why I want to read it. The court has reviewed all of the pleadings and has considered the admitted evidence and arguments of the parties at an evidentiary hearing. I released the entire evidentiary hearing. I think it was 4 hours long. And I released this last year after it had taken place so that you could hear exactly what happened during the course of the hearing. I had no commentary on the hearing. I simply played it as it was. And that was enough to show people exactly what kind of evidence Jenn Kamp had against John, which was zero. Not enough to convince the judge that John Dehlin had stalked her in any way and therefore dismissed her temporary injunction. But once again, the judge saying that the court had considered the admitted evidence and arguments of the parties at an evidentiary hearing held on March 7th, 2023. That's when the hearing was held and the date the order was signed at 9:00 a.m. related to an ex parte temporary civil stalking injunction issued on February 14th, 2023. For the reasons stated below, the ex parte temporary civil stalking injunction is hereby revoked. That means it doesn't exist anymore, guys. That means you can't violate it anymore. Because believe it or not, you can't violate the terms of an order that doesn't exist anymore, that has been dismissed, that has been revoked. Okay, so I'm just doing this as a little educational video for the two police officers and the prosecutor. So maybe what their boss needs to do is just have them sit down, watch this episode, and say, go thy way and sin no more. So what is going to happen at this point? I'll tell you what is going to happen, almost certainly. John Dehlin's lawyer, Jenn Kamp, is going to pick up the phone, and she's going to call the head of this prosecutor's office and say, I think you made a mistake. She's then going to send him a copy of that order dismissing the temporary order and pointing out to him, if he needs it pointed out to him, that November 21st actually occurs on the 2023 calendar after March 7th of 2023. Yes, November is after March. Therefore, John Dehlin cannot be charged with violating in November of 2023 an order that was dismissed in March of 2023. Yes, it's that simple. Sometimes the law actually makes sense. So then the boss of the office is going to call Rory in, and Rory's going to be a little bit embarrassed because Rory's going to have it pointed out to him that he didn't do his very basic due diligence of checking to see if the order that he filed charges on that had been violated was still in effect at the time of the alleged violation. I mean, this is basic prosecutor 101. I can't tell you how many times I did this back when I was working in the prosecutor's office here for 8 years, from 1990 to 1998. The first thing you do with cases like this when you're screening them is you look at the date that the violation is alleged to have happened, and you get the freaking order and you see if it was actually in effect as of the date that it's alleged to be violated. It's not that difficult. But Rory will learn from this. It'll be a good learning experience. Certainly, I had experiences like that where I made rookie errors. That's what rookies do, right? That's why it's called a rookie error. So, Rory, you will recover from this. You will go forward. You will be wiser. You'll be smarter, and you'll be cagier. And hopefully, the police will also learn from this, and they will learn that they need to do the same thing and not believe somebody just because they seem to be convincing. Because believe it or not, there are convincing liars out there. And I think the police just received a phone call from one of them. So that's what's going to happen with the case against John. Now, what's going to happen with Jenn Kamp when the prosecutor and the police find out that she played them? Well, they may let it go. They may let her walk. They may feel embarrassed enough that they don't want to deal with this anymore, or they could take it personally, and they could file criminal charges against Jenn Kamp for giving false information or partial information or knowingly incomplete information to the police, or malicious prosecution. Yes, she could be charged with criminal things in Utah as well. And I hope that she will, because really, she deserves to have some criminal charges filed against her, because what she was doing was trying to use the apparatus of the state and pull those levers in order to bring criminal charges against John Dehlin, which she knew were baseless and which she deceived the police into pursuing. And then the prosecutor didn't do his due diligence, didn't do his homework, screened it, filed it, the summons went out, etc. So I don't know what the prosecutor's going to do. I'm just putting it out there that it's definitely on the table that they could charge Jenn Kamp now with crimes associated with what she tried to pull on John Dehlin, using the police and the prosecutor's office as her personal flying monkeys. Well, that is about all for tonight. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please leave a comment below. And thank you for joining me here at Radio Free Mormon. Until next time, this is Radio Free Mormon, signing off the air.